Pilots, thanks for tuning in to the Motion RC YouTube channel. This is your pilot, Ryan. We have just assembled the TechOne Arrow 3D 31-inch wingspan EPP plane available at motionrc.com. Comes in two completion levels. There's a bundle which comes with all the electronics except the receiver, a battery, and two extensions and a Y connector. The bullets are already soldered on to the ESC, which is Dean's T-plug connector for the battery, as well as the motor, which is really nice. The bullets are already soldered on for you. It's a slick bolt-on shaft, so to speak, and then you just it comes with two O-rings, and then you just O-ring one onto the other side, and there you go. You have this breakaway prop that's not going to bend your shaft. Very cool. Foam tack is really all you need to get it done. I also do use some foam safe thick CA, although foam tack would be fine. I kind of use them both together, where foam tack takes a little longer to cure, and with the CA I can kind of, in essence, tack weld it like right now. You know, you can see that the wires are hidden for the ailerons, and then on the other side the rudder and elevator servo leads are embedded into the fuselage. You just use a hobby knife and slit that just deep enough to hide the wires, and you can embed those in there, which is super nice. And you can see that you might need to hog out a little extra foam for the connectors themselves for the extensions. This is what needed the extensions from here to the receiver for both the rudder and elevator, and then a Y connector for the aileron servos. No big deal. A 4-channel receiver is all you need for this. I'm using a 8-channel gyro receiver I'm going to try out with the Detrum Gavin 6C, which I'll be making a video of later. But 4-channel otherwise would be adequate for this plane. If you want a little more throw than the plane gives you as prescribed and laid out in the manual, be aware that your servos come with a bunch of different arms. There's a long arm like this that's double-sided. You can simply just cut the other half off and you have quite a reach to accommodate some throw. The control horn itself, as you'll see later, just has one position for the Z-bend to go, so you're not going to get any leverage that way. It's got to happen at the servo. I'll show you what 100% looks like on here, and you can make the call before you put it together. And of course, other radios can juice it up past 100%. The radio I'm using is it's at 100%, and that's what it is. Anyway, be advised that if you go with the manual callouts, you may not get the throw you want if you're a 3D guy. If you're sport flying, you'll be fine. All right, let's get into this, and we'll show you how this thing goes together. It's really a piece of cake. It takes more time to kind of neaten up the wiring than to assemble the plane at all. So with that being said, enjoy the close-ups here, and we'll see you in a minute. Here's a look at the parts. The wing's already joined, has the spar in it already. Same with the horizontal stabilizer. It's already got some reinforcement in there. Pretty low parts count. There's our control rods, our landing gear wire. Our servos are still in the package. I did unbox the motor and ESC. The bullets are already pre-soldered on this one. The Arrow 3D. This is going to be fun. 3S power. First step is to slide in the wing. And make sure your surfaces move freely and square the wing up the best you can. You can take a measurement from point to point and make sure that it matches. So from like wingtip to aft point of the fuselage, and make sure that that measurement is the same on both sides. So I checked the square of my wing and it's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it up right now. I'm going to use some foam tack on the top side. I'm going to go ahead and finger it in as well. So here we are with the horizontal stab. This is the, they show cutting this away. In the manual, it's already been done. There's a slit there already. So simply get this started, pry it apart a little bit. it's easy to kind of pull the back end of the fuselage apart and try to kind of work this in. Everything's easier if there's not a camera watching you. And then that notches in nicely. You can see there's a cutout here and notches in really nice. And then of course same thing, you want to make sure this is square too. So you can check, I use a string sometimes from this point to the wingtip, and of course the same thing on the other side, and make sure that those measurements jive, and then you can tack this in as well. It's ready. The next thing is we'll glue on the vertical, the rudder. So I've just checked it and I like it. So again, foam tack and CA combination keeps me moving right along. The rudder has the hinge like built in already. So here's the rudder there. Sometimes I like to get some straight pins on this part of the build and pin in the just to help stick it. One thing probably not a bad idea either is to go ahead and get these so they're not going to be moving around on you when you glue on the rudder. Now I'm going to run a generous amount on my rudder itself. Again, the hinge line is already on the rudder. Generous amount. You're going to get it where you want it, and then you're going to pull it off and push it on a couple times. You want it centered on the thickness of the fuselage, and you also don't want it obstructed by being too low. And what I mean by that is up here. You pull it off, introduce some air in there. You'll see it get stringy on you, which is what you want. I love this stuff because it gives you some work time. If I'm going to pin it in, now's the time. Now, just as an added bonus, I'm going to give it another little run. Foam tack right here. So next thing we do is the landing gear assembly. So we'll pull out some of these pieces here. Control horns, the wheels. Now what they want you to do is glue these things on ahead of time and all that. I prefer to not do that. I want to see what they look like on the plane and get it sized up, and I think I can do it from the plane fairly well. So that's what I'm going to do. So we'll take a look here at the underneath of the plane, the way the landing gear go. They go through this and into, there's a little like spot for them. There's a little like divot right here in the foam. And then you use these, there's two of these pieces of wood that you're going to use for like a reinforcement plate, so to speak. Now with the struts already in place, it's easy to figure where these are going to go and get them on. They're sized up appropriately. And put some glue in that area. I'm using foam tack. And I'll do both sides. And the big hole wood washers are what are going to go in these spots. There's one in place. I'm going to go ahead and stick this guy in. And then turn it and make sure your axle is where it's supposed to be. And I'm going to use some CA to pin it in right here, as the illustration shows. I'm doing this because the plane comes with them. But honestly, I would, if it was just me, I would just leave the gear off and let it be a belly lander. These are awesome that way as well. And they really don't weigh a whole lot, so they don't get beat up too bad. Now, while I have tension on this, holding it where it belongs, now is when I'm going to do this thing. So I'll do this piece. It helps hold it against the fuselage a little bit. And I'm going to CA it to the fuselage. Right in that pocket there. Not a bad time before things get completely set to make sure you like the way the wheel lines up. That looks fine, so I'm going to leave it. We'll do the other side the same way. Go ahead and glue this one in place. Reinforce this one a little bit around there. Lines up nicely. Now I'm going to go ahead and run a bead of CA along the tube here. And there's that. We've got the landing gear on nice and glued up. It's going to be great. One other thing I want to do, just as an added reinforcement, is I'm going to glob some foam tack in the slot here and kind of tie these together and help it, just reinforce it a little bit. And that'll help it quite a bit. Alright, I'm going to set her down and get ready to put these wheels on. Fantastic. So here's the wheel on, and we've got our wheel collar. And you put it on nice and snug. You use some Loctite if you'd like on the grub screw, just don't get any on the hub of the wheel. And then the next thing they want you to do is glue this on, and that's going to allow your wheel cover to go on. So then that glues to that, and there's a little hole there in it as well, so it's a guide, so to speak, so you know where to put it. So let's get that going. Fits on there pretty good. I'm going to use some foam tack. Again, make sure your wheel spins freely. There's a little bit of foam tack, which is good because on a wheel, it's really easy for CA to wick towards the wheel, into the wheel, and then all of a sudden you're not able to spin the wheel. I am going to do a little bit on the outside though. I'm going to go ahead and get the wood piece on the other one as well. Find your wheel collar in your bag of parts. Nice. And my wheel spins freely, which is great. The wood disc goes on here. So we've got our little wood disc glued on. Now it's time for the wheel covers. I like to get these both on and then flip the plane on its wheels and take a look at how it looks. Make adjustments if I need to. There's a little small hole right there, which is going to help guide you onto the axle, right there, so you know where it's got to go. And so, you know, good thing is it's foam tack, so I got time to work it. Go ahead and get the other one on as well, and then we'll flip it over. So flip her over, and it could just be slightly off the ground, not by much. Just make sure they're both the same. And take them up and eyeball them. There they are, looking good. And they're nice and even. I'm going to drop a little bit of CA down that hole just for fun. Glued and set. There we have our wheel pants. Next thing we're going to do is screw the motor on, put the X mount on the motor, and get it ready to go on the aircraft. So here's the motor, and here are the associated parts. The X mount. I'm going to go ahead and open that up and get the screws and X mounts bolted to the motor. Make sure you keep a good count of your screws when you're messing with these motors. You don't want to lose one inside or anything like that. So here are 4 of the same size screws, and that's what I'm going to use to put the X mount into the back of the motor itself. I'm just going to use a little bit of foam tack right in the hole, not a lot. And that will be absolutely sufficient to hold these threads from walking out or anything. Snug it up, Buttercup. This will be the last time I see these, I'm sure. Cool. So, we'll pull the plane over here and show you how this goes. Get it started here. Very good. The holes are already there's pilots in the wood motor mount, so you don't have to make your own holes. They're there. And I love these plug and plays because you don't have to worry about what components. You get them, and you know the motors are going to fit. The bolt pattern's going to match up on everything. It's just really a pleasure. Done. That's fantastic. So then there's a little hub here, and this gets, there's 2 bolts, 2 machine bolts, 2 big bolts that screw in here, and they're going to be what catches your rubber band O-ring to hold on the prop, and also super cool because it clamps down on the shaft. So there's a flat spot on the shaft on 2 sides, so you can't get this wrong. And once again, Homie likes his foam tack. So there's a right and a wrong way to putting this piece on. There's a part of it that's machined to have more of a standoff. This standoff goes up against the bell of the motor housing. You can check your prop fit to verify, but it fits way more snugly on the short one here than it does the longer one. It wallows around in there a little bit, so you can tell. So the longer piece here makes contact with the bell housing. I'm just putting a little foam tack on there. Not gonna hurt. But just a smidge on there as well. So now we just make sure our flats are lining up. Right there. So there's your prop adapter right there. And then now your O-rings will loop around these and hold your prop on nice and secure. This is a great system, and it seems to be improved and or just different with this little bit larger size of airplane. All 4 servos get the same thing. They call for the outer hole to be reamed out, so then you can place your quick connect in the outer hole. And this is what they look like when they're done. Your quick connect is in the outer hole of the servo arm. Your nut is on. I use a washer just as provided on both sides of this. That way it'll spin freely without ratcheting on the nut. You don't want it coming off. I also put a drop of, guess what, foam tack on the back of the nut to kind of emulate a nylon lock washer, so to speak. So that all 4 servos will look like this when you're done. As far as the arm direction, you'll have to adjust that for each area it's going to. And it's laid out pretty well in the manual what to do in that regard. Now it's time to put in the servos. They face this way, and we're going to slit a line right here about a 1/4 inch below the spar, even with a corner of this servo hole, and that's where we'll embed our wire, our servo wire. We'll do that way on both sides, and then we'll see how things line up, and then we also cut our control horn slit after that. Take out the servo. Score a line. A little deeper. And that should be sufficient. A little foam tack. My favorite. There we have a nice start to that. And again, just simply tuck the wire in there. Push it in, nice and secure. Embed your wire, and there you go. That looks super nice. Awesome. So following along with the manual, I've got the elevator servo here. My arm is upside down. It goes the other way. And then you line this up and you place a slot right there for your control horn. I've already done that, but now I'm going to glue it. And that should be plenty. Nice and firm. I'm going to run a bead actually this way too. And just make sure it's nice. And plenty of it. And this will set really nice before I hook the horns up. So our rudder servo is going to go, I'm going to do the same as right here. And right now I'm not gluing or anything, I just want to get things sized up, so to speak. So again, I can turn this horn upside down as well, and that's what I need to do really, so I can line up and figure out where to put the control horn for the rudder. So you don't have to worry about the elevator being obstructed as long as you basically keep your control rod parallel with the casing to the servo. If you go any tighter than that, you're liable to get yourself cramped. Go ahead and punch through right here. I've sized it up and I've determined the right place for my control horn for the rudder. Fits good. Nice. You want to make sure you get it up there as close to the hinge line as possible. Get it where you like it. Kick it. The Z bend of the control horn will go here. Pilots, that concludes the TechOne Arrow 3D video. We appreciate you stopping by. If you have any questions, ask in the comment section below. The manual is available as a PDF file on the product page. You can simply click it and check that manual out. It really leaves no stone unturned in the way of putting this thing together, and really does a great job of getting you through it if the video didn't do good enough for you. Alright guys, this is your pilot Ryan. Thanks for watching. See you next time.